Well, good morning, everyone. It's our pleasure to get together with you most weekday mornings live at 8 o'clock Central, and we record these for later viewing. Our purpose of getting together is to talk about some grant subsidized resources to help small businesses access capital. I think you would agree with me that there's nearly an infinite number of small businesses, rather those that have formed or those that are conceptually in the entrepreneur's heads. But most often, it's an inadequate access to capital that is a burden, a barrier that prevents the entrepreneurs from either starting, growing, and or reaching their potential. So what we've done is put together some resources that we'll go through briefly today and answer your questions on as they come up, and go ahead and type in those into the Q&A box. It's kind of like a chat box of Zoom. So we're going to talk primarily about the startup business funding package, and there's been some recent updates to that based upon our advisory board meeting last evening. So we'll discuss that. Part of the startup business funding package is QuickCash, and we actually now have a resource site up for QuickCash because it's available as a standalone and then included, which we'll talk about the relevance of that in a minute, but just wanted to bring your attention on guaranteedfunding.org. There is a QuickCash page, and if you click on there, there is a flyer. For those of you who are current distribution partners, we want to make sure that you have all the resources necessary in terms of press releases and flyers and so forth. So feel free to follow up with us after the Zoom if you need any of those resources to help with financial literacy and community outreach. So we applied for, from the U.S. Startup Grant, the Startup Business Funding Package proposal. So I don't know how many of you have developed, have written grant requests and have received grants, but typically you have to propose that you have a solution to a problem for a specific targeted audience. And so what we felt that we could do and have done since approval is that we can help entrepreneurs create new businesses positioned for fast funding. Now, that's kind of a generic statement. That's not very useful to understand what we actually do. And so we actually break that down into bullets here. You can see a proposal by clicking here under step 1. There's a press release here. So there's lots of resources to understand very thoroughly. But in synopsis, what we're doing is helping businesses be positioned to be fundable. Now, initially, the grant was written where we had to start a new business from scratch and take them through all the sequence. Based upon the advisory board last evening, we're now going to begin, as of today, November 28th, 2003, accept existing businesses into the program. We've ran into so many small business owners that have started a business, but it's not fundable. And instead of requiring them to start a new business, they can actually plug their existing business in. Let's step back, though, regardless of those specifics, and let's make sure that we have a thorough understanding of what does it mean to have a fundable business. This is kind of financial literacy 101, and it's one of the primary reasons that we were awarded the grant, is to help educate individuals, groups, communities to understand what does it take to be fundable. Because if someone doesn't know what's required to have a fundable business, how could they go about trying to address that? So here is from A to Z what it takes. The first thing that we need to have a fundable business is a unique business address. Now, as I go through these bullets, it's kind of the Cliff Notes version. If you wanted the full explanation of all of this on chapmanloanprogram.org, under grant resources, you'll see that you can access free, anonymously. You don't have to register, no nonsense. You can access the full financial literacy message, the training. And we have some of you that are out teaching this in person at churches and chambers and co-working organizations and such. And we are looking for more financial literacy educators. It's about an hour presentation when we teach it in person, normally 30 minutes online. And that's what you'll find is if you want to come view it, it's about a 30-minute presentation. But I'll give you the high-level review here. And then if you want to learn more, you know where that is. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is we need to have a unique business address. We can't use a residential address, not a shared office address. We need to have a unique address. So no other business is using the address that we have, and it needs to be registered with the United States Postal Service as a commercial address. Why is that important? I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Again, we go into it more fully down here. But the bottom line is that and we're talking about for business loans, not personal loans, right? If you want a personal loan, you don't have to jump through these hoops. But for a business loan, we are going to need to often recognize that they're going to put a lien against the business until the loan is paid back. Just like when you bought a house, you get a mortgage and there's a lien against the house. Well, when you get a business loan, there's typically a lien against the business. So if you don't have a true business address, then they're often not able to fulfill that and the loan will be declined. But that's the short version. Again, the full version you can get down here if you need. But the first thing that's included in the Startup Business Funding Package is a unique business address. So we'll pause there. So let's say that you're a small business owner and you already have a good address. Well, that's fine. With the recommendations of the advisory board last night, we're not going to force anything on. If you already have a good address, fine. You can still enroll. We just obviously, you'll opt out of that bullet is what you're doing. But in the purest sense, we're providing a business address, a true unique commercial address. And then the second thing that we do is we file with the Secretary of State. So we have a new entity that is clean, that is compliant. Again, if you have an entity already, you're now eligible to participate. You don't have to form a new entity. That's a change from the advisory committee meeting last night. Once we have the address, and this order is important, by the way, because we need the address first, because when we go file with the Secretary of State, they're going to say, well, what's the address of your business? If we use the wrong address, now we're in cleanup mode. We'd rather not be in cleanup mode. So that's why the address comes first, then the filing with the Secretary of State, then getting the EIN and the business bank account. You'll notice the grant provides this free, free, free. Now we're down to bullet number 4, because once we've completed these 3 items, we have the foundation of a credible business. You might say, well, oh, is it fundable? Are we ready to go to funding? No, not on that alone. No. But that's what we need before we get the business fundable, is a credible business structure. So if you already have this, that's great. You can enroll in the grant program and we'll move straight to bullet 4. If you don't have that, then fine. We'll build 1 through 3, and then we'll go to bullet 4, which is where we're at now. So, and again, when we do the full training, we talk about the what and the why. I think the why is as important as the what, because if you understand why it's important that these elements are present in your business to be fundable, you'll be more comfortable with it. On this one, we need to have a credit-worthy business because we want to apply for funding under the EIN. We want to separate ourselves personally and not go after personal loans. We want to go after business loans. And so business loans, of course, are going to be impacted by the business's credibility. Well, how do you have a credible business? Not fundable yet, because there's more to be fundable than just this bullet. But how do we have a credible business? Well, it shows that we have had extensions of credit and that we've used credit. We've paid as agreed. So we have trade lines, quite frankly. So there's a 2-part process that we do for free through the Startup Business Funding Package on this bullet number 4. The first thing that we do is make sure that the business's profile is accurate and complete with like Dun and Bradstreet and Experian Business. So we need a good complete profile. Then we add trade lines, primary trade lines. So now the business credit profile looks strong. So again, get more detail down here, but that's the Cliff Notes version. That's the what. We're going to build business credit by adding trade lines. The why is because it's obviously important before a lender were to loan a large amount of money to a business that it sees that it has a good credit profile. So we'll take care of that for how much? For free. You might say, well, great. So now we're ready to go to funding. No, one more step. We need to make sure that we have financials and we need to make sure that we have collateral. And so we accomplish that through the QuickCash program. For those of you that arrived late, we now have a resource page, guaranteedfunding.org QuickCash. So rather it's this bullet here built in or over here as a standalone. Let's talk about what QuickCash is and why it's important. Well, QuickCash is the transference of $10,000, which is clearly stated here, over to the business, to the participant in the Startup Business Funding package here, or just a la carte here. So it's the same thing. We're transferring over the $10,000, putting it on the business's balance sheet. Now we have collateral for funding. And that comes over in the form of receivables. So then we can liquidate those receivables and turn that into cash. So we have good bank balance and liquidity. So at that point, once we have these elements in place, we now have ourselves a fundable business. We have a good address. It's a good commercial, unique address. We're in good standing with Secretary of State. We have our EIN and business bank account open. We have a strong business credit profile, and we have assets on our financials, on our balance sheet. Now we are ready to go to funding. So you might say, well, I already have all this. Well, great. If you have all of this already, then you're overqualified for this grant. You don't need this program. Instead, scroll down and you'll see a link under grant resources. You can go right to funding today. We can get you financing, funding offers today, no hard inquiries. But if you don't have these elements, you're not ready to go to funding. Your business is not yet fundable. So we need to resolve that. And either you can enroll and we can build out a new business that has all of this, or you can enroll your current business and essentially opt out of those things that you don't want. Because we've had a number of people come to us and say, oh, I already have an EIN. Okay, then we'll opt out of that. We're going to have a little bit of a CYA, cover your butt to clean it up, that if you want to opt out of any of these elements, that's fine. But we're going to ask you to initial off on that, because our promise, our commitment through the grant is to do these things. But we do recognize that some of you already have some of these pieces in place. You don't want to be redundant. You want to opt out of some of these steps, and that's fine. But once we have a fundable business, now what do we want to do? We want to go get funding. Well, where would the funding come from? The funding could come from lots of places, because now we have a fundable business, right? If you follow what I'm intending to share with you, to convey, is the key is to get the business fundable. Then there are lots of places that we can get the funding from. One specific place that we can get the funding from is the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund is a different animal. It's a different beast. It is from a taxing authority. So it prevents us from having to go to a bank or a credit union or one of those alternative lenders and jumping through all those hoops. It's from a taxing authority. So that's good. It's tax money meant to be dispersed to help start and grow businesses. So that's awesome. Now, it's not all chocolates and roses, because with the Chapman Fund, it has a hard cap. They will only go up to $250,000. So what do? We need more than $250,000. That's fine. We could use the Chapman Fund for the first tranche, and then we could go after other sources afterwards. Had someone contact me yesterday. Well, which banks do we work with? Well, we have a consortium of about 40 different banks and credit unions and alternative lenders, but really there's not a restriction. We can go to whatever lender is best suited based upon the client's mitigating circumstances. So in summary, our 501c3 nonprofit, which we disclose that here, Business Credit Literacy, is a 501c3 nonprofit formed in 2016. We're a member of the Money Smart for Small Business Initiative, which is co-founded by the SBA and FDIC. Sometimes people ask, well, how did this come about? Well, the short version, and again, we go into more detail in the full version, but the short version is a number of us, myself included, were teachers, just good old-fashioned high school teachers. And so in Aubrey, Texas, A-U-B-R-E-Y, Aubrey, Texas, just outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, I taught Accounting 1, Accounting 2, Economics, Business Information Management, and Computer Programming. So I was a full-time high school teacher. And we were teaching these financial principles and to the students, through the coursework. And we started getting these calls and emails from interested / concerned parents and other community members saying, what in the world are you all teaching over at the high school? So what we realized is we were teaching important financial literacy concepts to 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in high school that the adults in the community didn't know. So then we started getting invited to go out and teach these same lessons like we're talking about today to apartment complexes and through churches and chambers and elsewhere. So we realized, my goodness, we've ran across this massive gap in knowledge that here we are teaching children, and that's a bit of an extreme, I guess, youth, teenagers, high school, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Here we are teaching school children about financial literacy concepts that a lot of adults don't know, which is crazy because it's the adults that are out starting and trying to grow businesses. So that is why we formed the nonprofit back in 2016, is to bring this knowledge out to the marketplace. And oh my goodness, it's grown. We have hundreds of distribution partners. Many of you wear those hats. If you're interested in helping us go out and teach these principles and help small businesses, you're welcome to do so. And that's the bottom link. We call that the Opportunity Fund. And so that's the bottom link here. So for grant resources on Chapman Loan Program, the first link is to enroll as a client. That's a duplicative link because you'll see up here it says two-step process. To qualify to participate, step 1, learn, step 2, engage. So this is actually the same link as here. Secondly, we talked about earlier, if you're ready to go to funding right now, great. I already see a question from Ashley. Ashley asked, well, how long does this process take? Well, if we're building a business from scratch, we're looking at 30 to 60 days. Again, if you already have some of this in place, obviously that could accelerate it. But in general, it's 30 to 60 days. You might say, well, that's horrible. I need funding before 30 to 60 days. Okay, then we can go ahead and get this process started, and then we can immediately get you some initial working capital. Third link would be the link to the daily Zoom, which either you're on or now you know how to access it. We've talked about this several times. Funding success stories, and we just talked about how to plug in as a distribution partner, a financial literacy educator. QuickCash sits on a different website, but again, it's the same. This bullet we've pulled out and made available on a standalone basis. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, and then we'll open it up for all your questions. So what we found is we've had some people come to us, and it's kind of getting to the second paragraph, and there's a misspelling there, isn't there? Some of the people just don't yet qualify for funding. So here it is, they want money, they need money, but they don't qualify for funding yet. What do we do? Well, one option that we've had is they can become a distribution partner, get paid to teach people. So that continues to exist. But what we can do is go ahead and just use the QuickCash program, transfer the $10,000 over to them. And so it's very simple. So on guaranteedfunding.org, QuickCash page, and you can see it's a very simple process. And you click here and it'll pop up a new screen, and give it just a moment. And so then there's the flyer, and then you just few initials and you're plugged in. So again, if you're one of our referral partners, we want to make sure that you have this flyer and you have everything if you're wanting to make QuickCash available as a resource to those that you educate. All right, so let's go back and answer the questions, comments, concerns that any of you have. And just remember, chapmanloanprogram.org is where we've been speaking off of. All right, so Felicia asked about time frame, and that's a good question. So if we're going from beginning to end, we're normally looking at 30 to 60 days. The longest the aspect or the component that takes the longest amount of time is adding the trade lines, because first we need to create the profile with Dun & Bradstreet, get your DUNS number, and then add the trade lines. On Experian Business, we need to create the profile. We'll help you with all of that, but that's the longest portion, what adds the most amount of time. So again, based upon the advisory committee's decision last night, existing businesses can now enroll. Before, we were very stringent. We were only starting new businesses and taking everyone through the full continuum. Now businesses that are already formed can enroll, and we can skip the steps. So if you already have an address, great, we can skip that step. If you already have a business formed, we can skip that step. Already have your EIN, we can skip that step. So all these things, Felicia, is making it quicker because there's steps that have already been completed. But again, for full transparency, getting the credit profiles built out and adding the trade lines is typically the longest of the steps. That's why. And so if you have an existing business or we're building a new one, it's still probably going to be the greatest delay. But 30 to 60 days normally for that process. All right, so then Ken's, thank you, Felicia, for that question. Ken's asking more about QuickCash. And so QuickCash comes automatically through the grant program. And again, how do you plug in there? Step 2. Or it can be available a la carte by going to guaranteed, which means standalone, guaranteedfunding.org, the QuickCash page you see here, and then simply clicking here to enroll, which I think I did a moment ago. Yeah. It'll bring up this, and there's just a couple initials. It's not very painful. So hopefully I answered your question, Ken. If not, let me know and I'll try to do a better job. Felicia's asking about dollars and cents. Yeah, so the QuickCash, there is a processing fee to transfer the $10,000. The processing fee, and again, very transparent. You'll see it. There's no secrets. It's $499.99 to process. That's paid at the time of enrollment for QuickCash. That is split 50-50 with a distribution partner. So if you are a distribution partner, of course, you can just credit yourself half. But that's the answer that I think Felicia is asking. So it's free here, but if you want to do it on a standalone basis, there is a processing fee that's rounded off and called $500. That's a 50-50 split with the distribution partner. And so again, if you're not a distribution partner, you can become one here. And then by becoming a distribution partner, then obviously that would cut your processing fee in half. Hopefully that was the answer that Felicia was looking for. So again, QuickCash available standalone. I think most people will best benefit from the full startup program, because what I don't want anyone to leave today's webinar to think, oh, great, I can just go over and get QuickCash and now I have a fundable business. That's not what I'm saying at all. We've discussed several times, what does it take to have a fundable business? There's a full explanation here, but in Cliff Notes, what do we need to have a fundable business? We need to have a good business address. We need to be in good standing with the Secretary of State. We need to have our EIN with a bank account open. We need to have a strong business credit profile. So these are all elements that are free with the startup business funding package. So could we go over and just do QuickCash as a standalone? Absolutely. Many of you asked for it, and thus we've made it available. However, don't think just because you go over and enroll in QuickCash as a standalone, which is crazy simple to do, that all of a sudden that these boxes are completed, because QuickCash as a standalone doesn't do anything with these 4 bullets. That's why the Startup Business Funding Package will continue to be our primary resource, because it does include all of these. Right? Hopefully that makes sense. Cornell's got a good question. So reaching out to us, you're welcome to reach us. We have our email. Of course, you could mail us, but that probably doesn't make much sense. But you could email and you can call us. Our phones, currently we're answering phones live Mondays through Fridays, other than holidays, normal office hours. We have applied for a grant to actually open up operations 24/7. So we would hire an evening shift and a night shift. So we would go from essentially 8 hours a day to 24 hours a day. We've not received grant approval for that, because obviously it's a lot more cost. But we're working towards moving to a 24/7 operation. Hopefully that'll happen by January. All right, so there's a few more questions. I think we've covered most of them, but I would encourage, if you have questions that we didn't answer, or you think of additional questions, reach out to us. We're real people. We're here to talk to you, to assist you. You have our phone number, which is answered live Mondays through Fridays right now during office hours. You have our email. You can email us, or you can just simply go to the website. You can go to chapmanloanprogram.org, complete step 1, complete step 2, and we'll implement. And we're only 30 to 60 days away. Right now, we're making a hard push. Everyone that's enrolling between now and the end of November, so we've got a couple days left, 3 days, including today, we're pushing to get the funding done before January 1st. So in other words, in 2023. After this week, I think it's unrealistic to think that the funding will occur in 2023. We're really looking at January 2024. So if you're on the fence, it's a great time to move forward. Conversely, if you want to just get started with QuickCash, you can go to guaranteedfunding.org, QuickCash page. You can look at the flyer if you want to look at the flyer, but the bottom line is you'll enroll right here. And then again, we are desperately looking for more financial literacy educators. Part of the grant requirement is that we're out in communities, large cities, small towns, and everything in between, out creating community awareness of building financial literacy, just like we started with our little group of high school teachers back in 2016. So if you'd like to help us teach in person or online, we encourage you to consider doing that. You can plug in right here, and you can teach once a month, once a week, or once a day if you want. It's fun to do. We've got all the materials we'll provide you, and frankly, you make a good side income. All right, well, thanks everyone. Hope to talk to you soon, and we'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Bye-bye.